Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Damar, and I have a very special guest with us today, Chaya Bracha Rubin. And besides all the accolades I'm going to give you, you're a mother and a wife, and everything is good. But tell us about yourself, and I felt you were a very special person to be on the Jewish View, and listen to our viewers should listen to it, everything you have. In any case, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be here, and I think a wonderful opportunity to hopefully spread some good things, good information about different things that I'm involved with. So it's interesting because Rabbi Simon, you asked me how would I like to be introduced, and so yes, I'm an educator and I'm a singer-songwriter, but I said, really honestly, I think the most beautiful title that I could have is that I'm a wife and mother. I'm so grateful for my children, thank God, and I have 3 little ones, and they're getting bigger. But yes, I
Kids grow up.
Yeah, of course.
I found that out.
So I've been told. And I work as an educator, teacher of many different grades. I've worked in early childhood education as well as high school and almost everything in between. This year, I worked at Maimonides Hebrew Day School, teaching 3rd, 6th, 8th grade and high school. And I teach English subjects, the English as a subject, and I also teach Jewish subjects. And I specifically like to focus on creativity in the classroom. I work part-time as a teacher, and I also am a singer-songwriter. So I'm very grateful to have, Hashem gave me this, I don't know what you would say, it's just a passion, a talent, but it's really something that I've had ever since I was young. I think that any kind of creative person feels, a lot of the times, maybe we feel things deeply, and therefore, as a way of perhaps processing the different events in our lives, or, being in tune with other things around us, we say, I'm compelled to write something or create something, so I write original lyrics, original words, as well as music. And I've been blessed to perform in many states in the United States, and also in Israel when I lived there when I was in seminary. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and honored to be here. Thank you.
Well, the first thing I'd like to notice for our viewers is that, many times you have young women and they say, well, I can't be Orthodox like you are, and I can't be Hasidic the way you are, is because it's going to stifle my, as I say, talents and inhibitions, and I want to be, again, what you're saying, a songwriter, sometimes it's an artist, and you won't, I won't be able to do those things. So I just wanted to show our viewers, to underscore what you're saying. Here you are Orthodox, here, yes, you're Hasidic, yes, you are married, yes, you have motherhood, your typical regular things. On the other hand, it doesn't stifle at all your innate talents that you have. So I just wanted to underscore that to everybody else, that if they're thinking that, oh, well, I just can't be Orthodox, I can't keep the Torah and the mitzvahs because I won't be able to do the things that I really want to do, and you're just a living, I could say it as a rabbi again.
I really, that actually means so much to me to hear you say it that way. And in fact, I'll share with your viewers, and I'm very open about this, I didn't grow up observant. So I am born Jewish, but I believed that being Jewish was a choice, and therefore, if I didn't identify as a Jew, because to me, I didn't even know really what it meant to be Jewish, then I'm not Jewish. So actually people would ask me, and I would say, oh, are you Jewish? And I'd say, they would think I look Jewish, and I actually felt that was something I was afraid to tell people. My mother, unfortunately, had experienced a lot of anti-Semitism as a child even, and in the workplace, and she didn't say this to us in words, but essentially she communicated to us, even as children, people will hate you if you're Jewish. So I grew up literally not knowing the difference between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and I think for Passover we had a box of matzah out on the table, and And I had family that really strongly identified as Jews and kept a lot of traditions and customs, but I didn't go to Hebrew school. I didn't find it any value. I didn't think Judaism was going to add any value to my life, and I just had a very pluralistic view, simplistic view probably. I did believe in God, but I just didn't know what that really meant. I felt, if I'm running for the bus and I say, oh, please God, let me make it, like I would still say those kinds of things, but I didn't have a text-based faith. I didn't have a practice-based faith. I kind of felt maybe in my heart, I'm cool with God. Like I remember my sister, I have an identical twin sister.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she said to me one day, she was in California for school, and she said to me one day, what do you think about God and religion? Like, if you would say that you're a religion, what are you? And I was basically agnostic. That's what I would say. But I remember saying that phrase, well, I'm cool with God. Like, I don't know. But the question itself actually made me uncomfortable. It was very interesting because she asked me this when I was in college, when we were both in college. I went to Penn State University, and the shluchim there, Rabbi Nachman Simon and Sarah Ita Moretsky, have a Chabad house on campus. And I have quite I think it's an unbelievable story, actually, of how I ended up in their Chabad house. Because I was actually invited, and again, I kept telling people I'm not Jewish.
We'd like to hear it too over
okay.
here.
Oh, I'm happy to share.
It sounds interesting. You're wetting our tongue over here.
So
let's hear the story.
So it's very interesting. I would say that since I didn't identify as a Jew, even though I firmly, if I was asked if I was Jewish, I would have immediately shut people down. If someone would press a little bit further, I would say, I have family that's Jewish, my mom's Jewish. But again, I didn't really feel that strongly. However, I had very wonderful extended family, and my grandparents, of blessed memory, lived in Florida at the time. Now, my mom, we lived in Philadelphia. I think she knew that we would need that support in our lives, and she actually set us up with a program at the time in Philadelphia. It was called the Joy Program. I think it was run by the Jewish Federation or Jewish Family Services, and it stands for Joining Old and Young. So I always think of it as like a big brother, big sister, but for older people. And so they were essentially, you could say, surrogate grandparents. Even though I had a very good relationship with my grandparents, they lived in Florida. And so that was a very big touchstone in my life also of Judaism. Now, we had a very modest, humble upbringing, you could say. And financially, my mom didn't have the resources to send us to a Jewish summer camp. But it was important to her, and also to we called her Aunt Marion, of blessed memory. So she worked very hard to get us scholarships, and we actually went to Jewish overnight camp in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. And I remember thinking, like, wow, this is so beautiful. They had this chapel on the hill. We would all dress in white on Friday nights. But I still didn't really connect the dots that I was Jewish. I was very young. My sister and I were, again, twins. So I remember I was like 7 years old when we first went away for summer camp. And I remember I came back from summer camp, and my mom was so happy, wanted to hear all about it. And I don't know, maybe it was a conservative camp. And Friday nights, they would have like a guitar guy playing guitar and singing Birkat Hamazon, the benching, the prayer for after the meals. I didn't put it together that we're thanking Hashem. No one said the word Hashem to me, but I knew, Baruch Atah Ado. I knew those kinds of, that phrase was familiar to me. I didn't really get it, but that was the prayer for thanking God after the meal. So we learned it just as a beautiful song. And so one of the first things I said to my mom when we got home, we'll sing you this song that we learned in camp. And she didn't know what it was. She didn't know it was benching. And meanwhile, she was like, okay, we have to record this for your grandma. So she took out the tape recorder. I'm not that old, but that's what it was at the time. And she said, we're going to send this to your grandmother in Florida. And we recorded it, and then she got it, and she was so happy, and we were talking on the phone. And she said, yes, I'm so happy you're doing these Jewish things. And my grandma said she didn't remember if it was me or my sister who said, but Grandma, we're not Jewish. And she said it was like a dagger through her heart. And my grandmother's first language was Yiddish. I mean, this was just shocking to her. But she tried to convey, a little bit. I still didn't really connect the dots. But that was pretty key. That's a pretty key moment in my life, because later on, I was in college. I was a very active person. I was the women's cycling coordinator for the Penn State cycling team. I was volunteering with different arts projects. There's community arts projects. Actually, a good friend of mine that I'm still in touch with, her name is Elodie Geikis. She's a wonderful artist and fine artist, and she also does murals. So I was helping to organize these mural projects, this one particular mural project that she started, which was a community mural, which means you would have meetings to get everyone on board about what the design should be. And, I don't have to go into so much detail, but I felt like my life was very rich and full. I also had a band. I was in a band. I'm still in touch with my friends. I'm still slightly in touch with these nice people that I still feel connected to and feel still, they were a good part of my life. I wasn't spiritually searching or seeking. I didn't feel anything was missing in my life. I would write more like folk songs, like folk rock and different kinds of things, and we would play benefit concerts for, I have a friend who was involved with Doctors Without Borders, so we would just do these kinds of things. I felt my life was very busy and full, and I wasn't missing anything. But one day, I was at a baseball game with friends, and it was a minor league baseball game in State College, and I was on a long row of people, and I was listening to my friend tell the story, so I'm not really looking at the field, and all of a sudden I hear, the smack of a bat against the ball, and I turned my head and I saw the baseball here. Yeah. So I got hit, and it was really painful. I was shocked. The whole stadium was staring at me, and when I picked my head up, everybody's cheering. It was very embarrassing. And I went, thank God, I got an MRI, CAT scan, whatever, nothing. Thank God, didn't even have a concussion. And they told me, they were like, you are so lucky. And I'm sitting with this swollen face. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm lucky. And they're like, no, you're lucky. It's the best place. If you had to get hit in the face, this is the best possible place to get hit.
A strong bone.
Yeah, because it's just your skull is right. That's the best spot. I was just so grateful. I could have broken my nose or my eye, God forbid, teeth. I could have lost teeth. It would have been horrible. But thank God, I was generally okay, but I had a contusion, so basically I had 2 black eyes from that experience, and as I was healing and just trying to make sense of everything, and of course I had classes to attend. It was very difficult because I was an English major, so it was very hard to keep up with my reading. A friend told me, she was like, you could have died actually, and I was thinking to myself, well, that's a little dramatic. She's like, no, I just read in the news there was a professional baseball manager who had actually been hit by a foul ball, just similar to me, but unfortunately it hit in the temple. And I thought to myself, wow, just a few inches, I could have, God forbid, not been here. So that really shook me up. But I wasn't, again, I didn't feel like God's sending me some message, I have to go on a spiritual quest. I just more or less, tried to go on with my life. Now, my schoolwork was suffering, but my teachers were pretty understanding. But unfortunately, about 3 weeks later, I was coming back from a bike ride with friends, and now at that point, a short bike ride for me was about 30, 40 miles. That was a short bike ride because I had done a century ride probably about a year before. I was very involved with organizing women. It's funny because they had a women's coordinator specifically, and the team was both for road biking and mountain biking, and I enjoyed both, but I was hoping to probably race in road racing. Anyway, I was just with one or two friends. I was with one friend, and as I was riding home, I got hit by an SUV. Actually,
really?
It was crazy. I was actually so angry because I was like, not again. I just got this crazy accident, and it was very embarrassing. Everywhere I went, people would, stare at me because I had these big bruises under my eyes. It just looked scary, like I'd been punched in the face, God forbid. So I remember feeling, this is crazy. I don't know what's happening. And I was so shaken up. I didn't even want to go to the hospital, actually. Like, I insisted. I was like, oh, I just want to go home. You know, my bike was, like, pretty much totaled. And I'm, like, limping home. It was just a few blocks from where I live. But the next day when I woke up, I couldn't even lift myself out of bed without being in excruciating pain. I did go to the doctor, and it turns out I actually sprained my entire neck and back and bruised ribs, and it was really painful. I mean, it was extremely difficult and also just so physically painful, but again, I didn't have any family close by. I didn't have, I had amazing friends, but college kids are college kids, and they can't stop their life to, help you out. So I did have some really special friends that tried to help me. My roommates at the time, chipped in to help cover my rent while I was recovering. I blew through my savings, whatever I had, and, it was just an extremely difficult time. But the amazing thing was that through those challenges and difficulties, at the time I was working in a Montessori school, so I had a lot of different jobs. I was working at a restaurant as a waitress, in a Chinese restaurant, actually, and I was working at a Montessori school. So I was putting myself through college. And I was just I remember telling them I was working for the America Reads program, it's called, as a literacy specialist with the little kids, and I was just I can't really be here because just a part of the job is that you need to sometimes help kids pick them up, bend down, and I was in so much pain I couldn't do any of that. So I had to stop working there, and of course as a waitress you can't carry trays and heavy things. You have to be pretty strong in order to, on your feet and everything like that. So I was just trying to figure out what am I going to do? I told a few friends, I'm looking for work. I don't know if you have any ideas. I think I worked as a short time. I worked as a teacher's assistant, actually for an architecture professor, which was not at all my field, but what his grading, he just needed me to grade certain papers and help him with stuff, and he was like, I trust you that you'll do a good job, because it's really checking that if their papers are coherent enough for you to understand, not being a specialist, then they did a good job. So I tried a little bit of that, but it was only short term. And then I had a friend call me and say, I saw an ad in the paper. There's a bakery called Gemelli, and they're looking for a baker's assistant. Now, I had a nickname. My English name is Bonnie, so my friends used to call me Bonnie the Bicycling Baker, because I would go around and I would take, cupcake batter or cookie dough, and I would just have my backpack, and I would, I had a little bag, and I would bike around to people's houses. When I would go to parties or whatever, hanging out, I would bake stuff in other people's ovens. So that's why my friend said, oh, this is perfect for you. You love baking. So she said, you should apply there. And I remember showing up, and the guy was very, a very interesting character. He owned 2 nightclubs and a bar. His name was Tony. But it turns out that Gemelli was the only kosher bakery in central Pennsylvania. And it was made kosher by the shluchim, Rabbi Beretsky, and his wife. They would come, and he was the mashgiach, and he would come, and the huge oven that they had almost never turned off, because it was this fancy specialty oven. His bread, it was artisan bread, focaccia and pan pugliese, and all these amazing sourdough. Everyone knows sourdough because of the COVID. But so I remember even the rabbi came in and he said, "Are you Jewish?" And I said no. And that was pretty much it. So essentially, I started working there at Gemelli Bakery, and I knew that there were people that kept kosher. Again, I didn't really feel so connected to the Jewish community at that point. And just to give you a little bit more background, that since I had these accidents, I was so overwhelmed, and it was just such an emotional time, that my schoolwork was piling up, and I was trying to keep on top of it. It was very difficult, and at the end of the semester, a number of my grades, even if I was in touch with the teachers, I was so overwhelmed and physically also in pain that a number of my grades just turned to Fs. Or, I was hoping that I would finish some of the work, but I didn't. And I actually lost my scholarships and my financial aid because of this. So I was not in a good academic standing. And I was in touch with my Aunt Marion at the time, and she was always encouraging me, you have to get this straightened out. You need your loans back. You need to have this funding back, obviously. And I think they even actually, my Aunt Marion and Uncle Gene, of blessed memory, they co-signed on a loan for me, so that I could just start taking classes again, because thank God I did get better. I did do physical therapy, and over the summer I was much better, but in the fall, that's when I was having, these conversations with her. And she said, one day I was on the phone with her, she said, what's your plan for the next few months? We have to get these things organized. And I said, I just don't know. It's so difficult for me. She's like, you need to go to the financial aid office. I was like, yeah, but I'm so busy now. I'm working and I have classes, and the office closes 15 minutes after my latest class. That's only 15 minutes. She said, if it's 15 minutes, you can do it. And she said, unfortunately at the time she was, had been diagnosed with cancer. And she said, 10 months ago, the doctors gave me 9 months to 12 months to live. And she said, and I still get up every day, and I go to work. She was like, I even put on makeup. She was like, if I can do it, you can do it. And it was so inspiring. She said, I know you don't consider yourself Jewish, and I know you don't think of yourself as observant at all, but tomorrow's Rosh Hashanah. It's the Jewish New Year, and it can be a new year for you. And it was so motivational, I was like so inspired. I was like, okay, I have to get back to do it. And so that next day I went into work, and honestly I was, rushing off to work, and I kind of really forgot about the conversation. But as I go to this kosher bakery, I see Tony pulling out these breads I never saw before, these kinds of special things. I said, what, Tony, this looks like challah, but why is it round? He's like, isn't your mom Jewish? It's Rosh Hashanah. He knew, this guy. And the whole conversation with my Aunt Marion came flooding back, and I was so motivated. After class, I biked right over to the financial aid office, and I remember I was crying to the lady there, and she said, no, here are the forms, you're going to do it, you have to contact the doctor's office, you have to get records, you have to do this and that, and even pressing legal action. My Aunt Marion was also like, you have to press legal action against this person who, was the guy made an illegal left turn into me. So it was just so much on my plate, but I did it, and I felt like this is the right step, just one step in the right direction. And I was so excited. I left that office, and I just I need to wish somebody a happy Rosh Hashanah. I just felt I have to do it. I went through all my family, no one answered. I went through distant relatives, no one answered. I went through people that I worked for that were Jewish. No one picked up the phone. I was like, I just want to wish one person a happy Rosh Hashanah. I called the one Jewish friend I had, Sarah, and she didn't answer either. And I thought, can I just wish one Jew a happy Rosh Hashanah? And it occurred to me, I actually met someone through, I was working for this mural painting organization, and I met a guy with a yarmulke. And I remembered he was an artist, and that's why I saved his number, because I was hoping he would be a part of this mural project. And I remember looking through my number, I'm like, what was his name? I remembered his name, and I called him and said, hi, I don't think you would remember me, but maybe, I was like, I just want to wish you a happy Rosh Hashanah. I was like, this is a really weird call, but I just want to wish you a happy Rosh Hashanah. He said, Shana Tova Mutuka. I'm like, what? What did you say? And then he said, what are you doing tonight? And I was actually really taken aback, because I'm like, I don't know this guy. What is he saying? He said, no, I want to invite you to the Chabad house. And I said, what's a Chabad house? He said, well, it's a wonderful family, a rabbi and his wife, and they open their home, and they, you just have to experience it. Come, you have to. And because of the chain of events that led to this conversation, I was actually, kind of interested in this experience. And he said, meet me at the chapel on campus, and I went, and I came towards the end of davening, and I think they were saying Kaddish or something, and it was familiar to me. But then when I went to the Chabad house, everything was familiar to me. I mean, I don't remember the washing, but I was asking questions, and then when they were benching, it brought something so powerful to me, because it was like, I know this from my childhood. And they said, but you're so enthusiastic, and you're so interested, and benching, but I thought you said you're not Jewish. And I said, oh yeah, well my mom's Jewish. And Rabbi Merzky stopped, and he was like, then you're Jewish, you're 100% Jewish. And I never had a rabbi with a long beard tell me I was Jewish. I really felt that's true. And and they were talking to me about how come you're this and that. And I was like, well, I don't believe in organized religion. and Rabbi Moreski was like chasing one of their kids, and he was like, we're very disorganized around here. You know, it was just so natural. It was just like the most natural thing. And even though there was a lot of growth along the way, different challenges along the way, I was so drawn to such a meaningful way of life. And again, I didn't feel that my life was missing anything. But then when I kind of tasted Judaism, I felt what I was actually missing. And so I remember also when Sarah Moreski told me about this Kol Isha, the prohibition of women singing, and I was like, oh yeah, forget it. Like, I'll never be observant, because I love, singing. It's not about performing for people, but it's just about connecting with an audience. And then she was trying to explain to me, well, it's not really, the idea is that your voice is such an essential, deep part of you that you don't want to show that just to anyone. It's really reserved just for all female spaces, and it's, she kind of explained it to me where I thought, okay, that's actually a very interesting point. And since she had that conversation with me, I had like one other gig, and I remember like people just coming up to me afterward, and I just remember like different conversations that I had that I felt like, a little bit, I understand. It just made sense to me from what she explained to me versus those conversations afterward, after a show and different things like that, where I was like, okay, I actually would probably prefer to be in an all-female space doing something like this. And now that's what I do. And it's really a joy and honor and privilege and pleasure to be able to.
Well, I just teach everybody a lesson also from our viewers. Again, it comes up almost in every time that we have why bad things happen to good people. And, you say, well, sometimes you don't know. You can't explain everybody who dies or is in the hospital, and I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not a righteous person. But on the other hand, sometimes, like with your story, sometimes you do see it. People get fired from their job, and what am I going to do? Oh, good, I got a better job after a few months. Instead of 30 years when this lousy job, now I got a better job. So it was good that you got fired or got laid off. It's the same thing. I mean, I don't wish anything bad, and only good things, of course. But, that sometimes, you get hurt or something. Well, it ended up. Now here you have such a full and satisfied life with a husband and children. And again, as I said at the beginning, people know you aren't stifled in any case of your creativity. If anything, maybe you could say that you were even brought out better.
I think it's even better because, again, if a person is a singer, they don't have a niche necessarily. There's like one genre that they sing in, and there's a million other people that can do the exact same thing. But to be I never thought of it at the time, but to be a from female, especially a Chabad singer, like to sing Nigunim or traditional Jewish songs, especially original songs. Like one of the things that you were saying just reminds me of the Hasidic concept of Yurida Letzorich Aliyah, that whenever someone is going through a difficulty, a lot of the times you can say, it's a descent for the sake of an ascent. And it was a very dark time and very painful time in my life, but I see 100-fold how, above and beyond, how Hashem had his plan for me. And what I was going to say is that now I see also that to be a from female singer is such a special niche, and it's also a beautiful community. Like now there are more and more women that are doing more with their talents and with their singing, but it's a beautiful community. Like I'm in touch with, I would say I'm friends with the top female Jewish singers in the world, and they're incredible women, and they're so just generous of spirit. There's not like cattiness or competition. It's just a supportive, beautiful group, and I'm honored to,
Well, we're honored to have you on Chaya Bracha Rubin on the Jewish View, and hopefully it's I'm sure the viewers would appreciate that and learn from that for either their female or their, that their husbands or their men, and for their daughters, that being an Orthodox Jew and a Hasidic Jew doesn't mean that you have to, again, diminish your talents. If anything, it accentuates the talents. Sure. Thank you very much for being.
Thank you. I don't know if I can add one more thought.
Go ahead.
So one thing I also want to mention is that I do still love biking, and with my kids as well. I'm definitely an avid cyclist, and I enjoy that as a hobby. But I also feel, just to what you were saying, it's an honor to be able to use even a desire or a gift like not a gift of cycling, but just a desire, like I enjoy it, right? But we can also channel those things, especially as a Jewish person. There's an all-female ride called the Tour de Simcha. That's actually, I'm doing it in just a few days, and it's raising money for kids with unfortunate, very difficult health diagnoses like cancer, Rahman al-Islam, or other very painful situations, long-term life-threatening illnesses. And, before becoming from, I would have never known about such an organization like Camp Simcha or Chai Lifeline, but these organizations are truly changing people's lives, and they give so much support to the family. They make sure each family has kosher food, a physical person in the hospital with them, somebody that's gone through a similar process, unfortunately, and then they have a 2-week camp every summer called Camp Simcha. It's going on now, where these kids come from all over the country to really bond with people who can truly understand them and have unfortunately gone through similar circumstances. So I'm raising $3,600, and I'm actually almost, I'm about halfway, a little bit more than halfway, I think, towards my goal. So I'm always happy if people want to donate, if I could share
give
that.
the address. And
Yeah, I would love to share
the
that.
website.
Yeah, it's tourdesimcha.org/Chaya Bracha, but I'm happy to, you can put it in the show notes or on the YouTube link. That would be great.
Thank you very much, and you're doing good works, and give you a blessing for more success in the
Amen.
future.
Amen. Thank you so much.